I think when you just take LCS week to week, looking at match to match, it's really easy to just think about how you're going to play. You don't really have to think too much about the past or look too far ahead into the future. I just say we're going to be playing against any team. We could win against any team, and in the end, whoever plays better wins. So I think we all have the same mindset when it comes to that.
Welcome back. The teams are gearing up for round 2 of Echo Fox versus Phoenix 1. We got a special surprise for game number 2. A long-forgotten face is now reappearing on the side of Phoenix 1, and Nori is in.
I know, and the only context we have from Phoenix 1 is that they were planning on putting in a Nori for game 2 regardless of performance. So they want to give him some time as he's returned from his break that he took earlier in the split. We talked before the series about this. If it's not broke, don't fix it, is generally what a lot of teams do, but Phoenix 1 sees a lot of value in a Nori. They potentially see a lot of value in being able to swap them between the two junglers. After such a great game 1 for Meteos, you're a little surprised to see it, but they were planning it beforehand, and they're putting in a Nori to see how he does in the middle of the series up 1-0.
And we were discussing that before game number 1, talking about can this team make it work with having 2 different junglers? Are they going to be able to incorporate them both at the same time? Or is it ultimately not going to work out, and they're going to have to come down to a decision between which one they ultimately feel is better for the team? But going with this approach, deciding to go with a Nori in game number 2 after the awesome success of Meteos in game number 1 means that they are open to seeing if they can make it work with both.
Yeah, and I just want to speak a little bit to a Nori because this is a dude who was carrying Phoenix 1 when they were struggling a lot last year. And even early on in the split, Nori had a bunch of carry performances. And I think that put a lot of pressure on him as a player where he felt like he needed to carry the majority of games. So I'm really curious to see what a Nori looks like now, because he's taken a step back and actually seen the team thrive with a less carry-focused jungler in Meteos who's been doing more warding and objective control, and in a lot of ways wasn't doing a lot of the things that a Nori was potentially doing better, right? But now that he's back into a successful team, I can't wait to see what he does.
And we also kind of got to look at it from the perspective of if your team's doing really good without you, there's pressure on you to make sure that when you come back in, you're not the element that kind of rocks that boat a little bit. Nori wants to join in with the success and make sure that he's able to play at the same level that they've been playing with Meteos on the team, especially considering their recent streak of wins.
Absolutely. We also have to welcome in the other stream, NALCS 1. Welcome to Echo Fox versus Phoenix 1. The first match was close for about 23 minutes, and then Phoenix 1 just absolutely steamrolled them, with Arrow getting player of the game honors for his 10-kill Ezreal. Now we're into game 2 with Nori subbed in.
Yeah, close for 23 minutes, and Nexus blows up at 27.
Crazy.
Not every day you see something like that, but Phoenix 1, we've been talking about a team that's on a hot streak, rising up. Now they have that 3rd place thoroughly locked in for themselves, looking to build that record up even stronger as Echo Fox competing for a spot a little bit lower in the standings right now. They're currently hovering around 6th with a couple of other teams, Immortals and Dignitas, very, very close by. So every win, every loss has a huge impact.
It really does, and we can see the bans right here, having the Graves ban for Acadian, having Acadian's team themselves ban the Rengar because Nori is back in right now.
Right.
And Rengar is pretty much his best champion. Just going to push that jungler tier list down one step further.
Some of the bans are going to be changing up this time, because we mentioned last time, Meteos is all about the Elise, the Olaf, and the Zac. At Nori, not the same story. So you got to be able to adapt to that if you are Echo Fox. And I'm interested to see what Phoenix 1 decides to do with a Nori in his first game back with the team in a while.
Yeah, I wonder that as well. We'll see if they put him in a strong position to succeed with an earlier pick. Generally in the top 3, because there are so many things available right now as far as the Kha'Zix, the Elise, the Olaf, whatever they would want him to have right now. Interesting that the first pick Malzahar is in for Gate. It is generally considered the strongest support on the board right now, and another extremely early pick Ezreal for Arrow.
Malzahar making it past the ban stage. This is the support champion that Gate has played the most so far in Spring Split 2017. 10 games compared to the next closest being 5 on Zyra or Tom Kench. So definitely a champ they're glad to lock in.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if Phoenix 1 ends up going with Nami fairly early. It seemed like it was going to be an Adrian special, yet we actually got to see Stunt play it as well. So the team itself loves Nami Ezreal, and it's also a very strong lane. Of course, for now, though, they're making sure to get those power picks in there.
Nori's going to be on the Kha'Zix. Arrow's going to be on the Ezreal. I mean, it worked so well last game. Why not repeat it again? Acadian, though, this time on Lee Sin as they lock in the Ashe for Keith.
Yeah, almost no hesitation from Echo Fox on any of their picks. I think if we were to count the total seconds to lock in, it's probably about 10 so far. Like the decisiveness, they put together a very solid dual lane that oftentimes gets targeted with bans against what, if this Karma gets locked in, will be a far more passive one. Ooh, interesting to see the Tarek. It's something Stunt played a bunch of back on Team Liquid Academy. Was one of the first people to actually pull Tarek into the competitive space. Not to mention, it has been a good pick against Malzahar, so excited to see it.
Yeah, Tarek can be very, very potent if you're able to get off one of those clutch, juicy ultimates in the middle of a big fight and just negate a lot of damage. But at the same time, if the ultimate doesn't come down in time, it can just be a complete wasted, gigantic cooldown. So that could go to heaven or to hell. We'll have to see how it ends up working out for Phoenix One as we're into the second part of the bans. Victor going to be removed first, and just like in game number 1, it's going to be bottom lane and jungle prioritized, so expect to see solo lane bans here in Phase 2.
Absolutely the same theme of draft, but they were needing to make the changes because of the Lulu ban, which was actually incredibly effective in that last game. Lulu is a pick where, as we mentioned, we're really just starting to see now. Obviously, some people better at it than others. The melee Tarek will definitely put Phoenix One on the back foot for so much of this laning phase. So what will matter now is whether or not Phoenix One can get priority in the mid lane, because if they don't, that makes it so the entire map can kind of collapse down and turret dive them, which can make it really difficult, and I think it's what Echo Fox wants to do.
Speaking of the mid lane, plenty of bans focusing around that area in this second phase. Cassiopeia and Jace both going to be banned away as well. Jace, of course, can also be a top laner, but lately we have seen him mostly in the mid lane when teams are drafting him. And Gangplank's going to be the last one, really not wanting Zig on that now in back-to-back years.
Yeah, I mean, based on the top lane bans, there's still no Shen that has been picked in this game, and it has been kind of the priority pick. I know Zig's had a lot more success on carries, but I'm quite surprised that we haven't seen it as of yet, because it combos so well with what either team will want to do.
Ahri locked in on the side of Phoenix One.
Double checking, there is Shen available. It is.
You've got that. Yep, Shen's actually available this time around. Was not in game number 1. But here in game number 2, it could always be the possibility for these guys. Hovering back and forth between a couple of different support-looking picks. Instead goes ahead and locks in that Shen.
Yeah, and it's been, I feel like, the premier top laner on this patch after Maokai got hit with fairly substantial nerfs. Zig probably just going to play Kled into it, if we're being completely honest, so that could be why they're okay with it. And very strong lanes there for Echo Fox in the mid lane. So that whole game plan we talked about of being able to shove in the bottom lane, getting the mid lane priority, and then Shen ulting down to the bottom side, since Phoenix One is going to be pushed back to their turret on Tarek and Ezreal. Very dangerous, and something Phoenix One is going to have to be super aware of.
With Syndra, the final pick on the side of Echo Fox, Phoenix One has one more pick to go to respond to this. It is their top laner. Thinking about Nautilus right now, they will lock that one in for Zig.
So just going with the tank. They have a very strong front line there with the Tarek and the Nautilus, as well as pretty reliable initiation. The overall damage there, though, from the Phoenix One team, it's a little bit lower than you would see if you would have gone with something like the Kled. So there's a chance that Looper's Shen gets to an unkillable state. But as we mentioned, relatively normal team compositions with tanks, mages, marksmen, all in normal spots. Just Echo Fox with a stronger early laning phase in the mid and the bottom side of the map.
And having that strong early laning phase could be key for Echo Fox, because usually when we see this team do awesome stuff, it's what you were talking about earlier, Jad. The top part of the map for them is the key. Acadian needs to get Looper and Froggen off to a great start, because when Looper and Froggen are able to really go off and be the champions and the players that they want to be in this game and get ahead and get those leads, that's how Echo Fox finds wins.
Yeah, and to their credit, they have actually had very strong early games throughout the majority of the split. It's just been their ability to transition those. So I do feel like they're trying to draft themselves for success in this bottom lane, trying to give Keith and Gate as many advantages as possible. We'll see if it works.
Remember, if Echo Fox loses this game, that's going to be all she wrote. Phoenix One going to go up to an even stronger record in third place. Echo Fox going to go into a more even unstable situation and standing towards that bottom part of playoff qualification in the ladder. 6th place and 7th place is one of the biggest differences in the standings, because 7th place, you don't get to go to playoffs. 6th place, you do.
Exactly, and this year, 8th place is safe from relegations as well, so it's really just that race for playoffs as we're talking about, and with CLG showing some struggles today against Team Dignitas, maybe there's an extra playoff spot that potentially could be up for grabs, but really as we close into these seasons, that race for the 6th spot is getting really tight.
Absolutely. With the CLG loss versus Dignitas 2, that brings those teams both a little bit closer because CLG was slightly higher, Dig was slightly lower. So now you've got CLG, Dignitas, Echo Fox, and Immortals all just in this big melee pile right around 6th place. And these teams have to be very concerned about every single series they head into because you have a bad day, you have a bad series, that could be your season ending 4 weeks earlier.
And then we got Envy and Team Liquid just looking from the distance, guys, we have double lift, please let us into the playoffs.
You're like, man, I wish I could be thinking about qualifying for 6th, but it's still
games
possible.
first.
It's still possible. But they've definitely got their work cut out for them if they want to achieve those lofty goals. Gate and Keith here in the bottom part of the map. You really got to respect what Malzahar can do at level 1 with the Voidlings. We've seen a lot of face checks into the Crab Swarm before. So Phoenix 1 not wanting anything to do with that.
Yeah, the Taric at least, I've seen find pretty good success in a Malzahar. You can just use your Taric stun on the Voidlings, so it gives you time to space yourself away from them and not get completely one-shot. So you're definitely pushed in, but is one of those lanes that can kind of neutralize it. It just means they're going to get pushed in.
Yeah, and sometimes getting pushed in isn't the worst thing in the world. Acadian starting off at the chicken camp yet again. Froggen throwing the ball over the wall to make sure that he gives him as much assistance as he can. But problem is, if you don't have any AoE tools, these chickens actually beat the heck out of you.
Yeah, I want to talk to a few more Lee Sin players. It looked like he got pretty blasted there, even with the help. So, not your cleanest start. He has such good single target killing. It's rare that you... I'm surprised he didn't just start at red or at blue or at any of those camps that he can take much more easily.
It's a champion like Kha'Zix. The isolated style of camps, the large target compared to the mini small targets, is a lot more easy to deal with as that early level Lee Sin.
Yeah, really curious to see how Inori does as well with his early pathing, especially if we kind of do a throwback to the earlier part of the split. Acadian was the man as far as getting first bloods. He was getting first bloods in over 90% of his games. That's definitely fallen off. He did not get first blood last game, so will Inori be able to kind of outsmart him? Because this could be a very snowballing matchup. Both of these junglers have had a few struggles with tilt, also very capable of carrying games.
All eyes will definitely be on Inori this game. A lot of people have been wondering, where's Inori? What's going on with Phoenix 1? This was the guy who was the heart of the team for a while, and now he's back and up against Acadian, who's kind of looking towards the red side jungle, but also hanging around here in mid lane. It's going to be pretty difficult to make any kind of a real impact onto Ryu, but the stun comes out. Acadian's too far away, though. No time to jump in.
Yeah, but there could be a little bit of a skirmish in the jungle here. Acadian will see the red buff going for Inori.
Acadian jumping in, but the problem is he's between his opponent and the red buff, so he ended up tanking a lot of damage just from those auto attacks, flashing over the wall. That is not what he wanted to do.
Yeah, advantage Inori, even though his red buff is going to be delayed here. Both junglers smartly smiting the red buff, attempting to get that heal. Inori definitely was able to get the isolation damage because Acadian, it was in this tricky spot where he didn't want to take damage from the red buff, but also didn't want to isolate himself, so yeah, he lost the fight.
Yeah, you really got to respect how much damage the buff does at this point in the game, because you're only a level 3 champion. It's not like you've got 2 or 3 items and it's really no big deal whatsoever. We saw yesterday, Jad, how deadly those red buffs could be. Double Lift showed us just how tricky those suckers can get you.
Yeah, who would have known that the red buff, you know, in solo queue is not going to get you, but as soon as you come into the LCS,
yeah, that's part of playing the game. As soon as you go to LCS,
that was an atrocious move by Double Lift yesterday.
Brand new weaknesses open up all over the place.
And that's the thing about dying a red buff. You never live that down if everyone sees it happen.
No.
But I know, as Ryu gets eaten by stun, I know pretty much anyone who's played League of Legends for multiple years has died to a jungle buff at some point in their career. It's happened to everyone.
Yeah, nobody likes to talk about it. Nobody likes to mention it. You try to brush yours under the rug and laugh at everybody else's.
Absolutely. Looper actually, though, getting jumped on.
Looper getting gagged now. They're able to find the first blood for Inori. That's how you make a comeback after a couple weeks away. Now Keith going to be stunned up bottom side, but not really anything big. Inori shows up really huge.
Yeah, Acadian going to try and get one back, but a quick flash away from Ryu. And going back to that top lane gank, pretty much just Looper being super far up in lane and had absolutely no jungle backup, not to mention Inori wasn't pushed out of the jungle well enough by Acadian earlier on, so a smart gank by Inori. He just approaches through a control ward, Looper already taunting away, but that was before the dredge line would even come through, and just instant flash jump there by Inori. Still potentially could have seen a flash away from Looper for the survival, but Inori just tried to get it done before Looper would react, and he did.
Not only was Inori not forced out of the jungle by Acadian earlier, Acadian forced himself out of the jungle. He blew his own flash, took himself down to 150 HP, so then he's not in a spot to make any kind of a play up there, and Inori just takes the free money. Now level 4 on the Kazakhs, goes ahead, puts the second point into the Void Spikes. Means that he'll be able to clear out the AoE camps a little bit easier, especially that Raptor camp that we were talking about just a couple of moments ago. Then goes right back to maxing the Q. It's a solo Q Kazakhs strategy that I learned a while back. I was like, wait a second, why are they putting 2 points into 2 different skills? And you realize it's just all about the chicken control.
Yep, definitely. Also increases the sustain that little bit. It'll all bounce out in the end.
Phoenix 1 still only 200 gold up, though, despite grabbing the first blood. And first blood plus assist, remember that's 400 for the kill, 200 for the assist, so 600 advantage. So the farm game going the way of their opponents on Echo Fox, you can see an advantage in pretty much every lane for these guys.
Well, that was specifically kind of how they were drafting. The Syndra's supposed to be able to win almost any matchup. The bottom lane of the Malzahar and Ashe was heavily prioritized and has been so the entire year because of the laning phase as well as the kill pressure at level 6. And we thought this game was kind of going to be about whether or not that mid and bottom lane power could transition down. But we haven't gotten there yet. Here comes Acadian.
Stand United coming in, looking to make the 2v2 happen, and Nori going to be taunted up. Acadian and Looper trying to make this one go all the way if they can. Nice Sonic Wave past the Crab. Zig walking himself out as Keith is now in danger of getting dove. Arrow and Stunt looking for the moves. The Stunt's going to be dodged away. Some fancy feet from Keith are not going to be fancy enough.
Yeah, but you really wonder, where's your team, man? Why are you under that turret against two level 5s with the huge minion wave? Keith did flash the stun, but there wasn't much else that he could do. Pretty simple kill there for Arrow and Stunt to get the turret dive off.
He flashed that stun at the last possible second, too, just making sure that he didn't give Stunt the opportunity to try to follow flash it and still land it. But here's the fight, the 2v2 in the river. Yeah,
Malzahar had roamed up to potentially assist this later on. Inori really just, not much he can do when Acadian does go for that play because Looper's jumping in with that massive shield. And yeah, Malzahar is continuing that chase onto the Nautilus, so Phoenix 1 knows exactly where everyone is, makes it a really safe move. In a sense, Echo Fox left Keith out to dry there, but Keith also needs to protect himself and just back away.
That Lee Sin Q past the Scuttle Crab was just right on the money from Acadian as well.
Yep.
Froggen snatching up that blue buff, making sure True Shot Barrage can't do anything to it, and securing that one for himself. Both these mid laners, of course, going to be getting a lot of value out of the blues this game, so stealing those away could be a real impediment to that success.
Yeah, Froggen needs to be able to continue to keep this wave shoved to limit Ryu's ability to roam from the mid lane.
And Nori does go for the standard Claws evolution first, too, by the way. Going to be keeping track of those Kazakhs evolutions as we go throughout this. We talked about Acadian before the series started, saying he was one of the people who kept evolving Wings second when a lot of people were switching to Rockets. See what Nori decides to do is Ryu's going for the moves onto Froggen. Stunt shows up, and that's going to mean there's no opportunity for a counterattack, even though Acadian was waiting around nearby. 1-0 on this Lee Sin, got the Dragon's Rage and the Flash available. Means he can set up some killer plays if given the angle.
Yeah, that gank was quite well sidestepped by Froggen. It's going to give him the ultimate advantage for quite some time, since that rank 1 ultimate does take a while to come back off of cooldown, and they didn't even burn any summoner spells, so even with all that, it's still Phoenix 1 that has that gold lead, so it speaks to when the next time Echo Fox can make a play with Looper's Shen ultimate, and that's in about 15 seconds.
Echo Fox down a couple of 100 gold, not the end of the world, but again, like you talked about, the lanes that are supposed to have the advantages, you don't want to be down a couple of 100 gold when you draft the lanes like that. The lanes are supposed to have those edges, and you really like to be able to translate those into a nice early lead. Right now, Echo Fox is going to be climbing out of a small deficit.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm wondering, right? The Arrow stunt lane is crushing. Arrow's gone for such a scaling build. The very early tier also picked up a call. Theoretically, he should be getting shoved in, but because they burned both the Keith summoners and got the kill, he can safely lane like this. Stunt has topped him off for any volley heal, and it's actually Arrow and Stunt who are controlling this lane.
Gate and Keith just trying to find their footing here for a little while. They've got the exhaust and the flash up on Gate, but Keith's summoner spells still both down from that dive earlier. 74 to 86 in terms of the farm. So Keith trying to hold on as well as he can right now. Both top laners also going for a little bit of magic resistance earlier on this game, since both are magic damage, base damage champions. You got to make sure that they're prioritizing the lane ever so slightly, even if they go for the armor afterwards.
Yeah, such a Ninja Tabi craze going on in full play.
When the 80 carries are getting it, you know that it's kind of just becoming this trend.
It's kind of interesting, too. I was talking with Mark Z before the show as well, and he thinks a lot of it has to do with just meta champions, how there are so many physical damage dominant roles. Elise is really the only meta magic damage jungler, so almost every game you're getting a bot lane and a jungler at least. And then on top of that, it's fairly common that the top laner does a lot of physical damage, like a Shen, or even you're going to see a Zed or a Talon in the mid lane. There's so much stuff that is just physical damage that even though the boots haven't been changed for a while, since there's always 2+ in a game, people are now kind of just doing the math and saying, oh, I would love to take 30% less damage from this class of characters, which make up half the map most of the time.
It just makes sense when you break it down through the math like that. If you can get that much value out of a small purchase, out of a purchase you're pretty much going to be making anyway. Everybody buys boots. Except you guys who are making the Cassiopeia jokes in the chat like you always do. But everybody else buys boots. So if you can go for the value like that, it's very, very easy.
Yeah, not to mention a lot of the lethality users as well. Just thinking about the math of the way armor reduction works, for every point of armor penetration you have, the closer you get someone to 0, the more effective it becomes. So just being able to get a little bit of armor and not go towards 0 actually heavily reduces the effectiveness of lethality in general. This is a game where maybe one person will build lethality, but you're seeing people still valuing it to a point where they want the Ninja Tabi just for the raw attack damage reduction.
Ryu going to keep on pushing up here in the mid lane, starting to fall behind a little bit more seriously in CS. Frog and Syndra always going to be a threat from range with all those spears. It's the stun onto Ryu. Thunderlord's going to be procced as well, but Froggen with a low mana pool isn't that big of a threat. Ryu recognizes that, so he's able to farm up pretty safely.
Yeah. Still getting in a little bit of trouble there in that lane. Froggen is doing a good job to bully and grow that CS advantage, but as we've seen from Echo Fox, the CS advantages only take you so far. Keith started last game with a 30 CS advantage over Arrow. It didn't matter. He then died 7 times in team fights because Phoenix One has been able to put such better team play together. The question this game will also become, will they be able to do the same thing with Nori? Because they've been looking so good with Meteos, who's very vocal and had slowly been working on his shot calling throughout his time on Cloud9. So let's see if this close game can have the same outcome for Phoenix One as it did with Meteos.
Phoenix One looking for the Mountain Drake for the second time this game. Earlier, Nori tried to solo it out, but because Acadian was moving in, he backed out, realized he couldn't secure it in time. This time he's got the bottom lane rotating up to help him. Slower first Drake than we saw last time around. We commented last game about how the objective game was being played a little bit slowly, up until, of course, you know, Phoenix won in 27 minutes. But it's being played even more slowly this time. Still no turret first blood claimed yet, and only 1 Drake 13 minutes in.
Yeah, and Echo Fox has been known to be one of the slower playing teams. That has changed generally this split with Acadian's aggression, but kind of showing itself in this series a little bit.
Echo Fox find a chance for some extra money, though. They're going to find that turret first blood, give themselves a 1,500 gold lead. That's exactly where they want to be sitting, heading in closer and closer towards the mid game. Looper and Zig just trading blows back and forth, but this isn't carry versus carry anymore, Jad. This is tank versus tank, so get out the wet noodles.
Yeah.
Let's have ourselves a good old tank fight.
There's no bear trap on a rope that gives you kill threat in this one, mainly because Looper has Grasp and Zig has Courage of the Colossus, which is more of a team fighting mastery. Looper will get the advantage in this lane over time. Not necessarily there yet because he's up against a Bomby Cinder to no Bomby Cinder, so the shove is going to be in the side of Zig, meaning the minions will help him in fights. But when that equalizes, you would expect it to go a little bit more to Looper.
Phoenix One has a lot of tools up and available, and Fox has the same thing. All summoner spells across the board are off cooldown. So once a team finally does find that angle, find that opportunity, make the call to go for some kind of a play, they've got to be ready to outplay all those different escape options as well. Because they're both playing a very slow, very steady style right now. Nobody's really looking to go crazy, find any sorts of really off-the-wall types of moves. And as I'm saying it, Ryu heads into the enemy jungle, maybe looking to make some kind of a rotation down, but instead just steps on a ward, heads himself right back into his lane, which is pretty well protected on that bottom side with control wards.
Yeah, it looks to be what would be a dangerous space for Erwin Stunt to be, but they've really yet to be punished in that lane. I do want to touch on the Abyssal Scepter first from Ryu, though. Feeling like he's forced into a very defensive role. Ari's one of the champs that can get away without building Morellonomicon first, just because with blue buff she has relatively low mana costs that are necessary for wave clear. So that's kind of the thought he's going through right now. I personally don't like Abyssal as the first item. I'd rather see just the magic resist and then build into one of your burst items. But it's going to slow down his power a little bit, and kind of speaks to Phoenix 1 just playing for a teamfight phase.
The magic resist is going to be really big for Phoenix 1 in this game. Not only do you have to deal with Froggen, we talked about how Looper's also got magical base damages, and don't forget Gate, because Gate still adds a lot more damage than a lot of other supports will, even if it's not a Syndra amount of damage.
Yeah, and oftentimes you'll see teams have to, or opt to go for 4 or 5 Quicksilver Sashes, which in sense caps your build early and makes the scaling against a Malzahar much worse. So that makes Malzahar a really good scaler, even if he's not pumping out huge amounts of damage.
Yeah, it's one of the hidden bonuses of the champion. You effectively get to remove an item slot from certain enemies. And granted, it's not that big of a deal against somebody like an Ezreal who can get full value out of the Mercurial Scimitar with the AD and the lifesteal and things like that, but you force an Ahri to buy a Mercurial Scimitar, and that's really not where she'd like to be. Still a very close game in terms of the gold, though. 1.3 thousand. Highest we saw at this game was about 1.5. Echo Fox maintaining that very little margin over their opponents in Phoenix 1, and considering this is a 6th place team versus a 3rd place team, you wouldn't expect them to just explode and run away with it.
Yeah, but the one big difference between these two games is just the ward pressure on the map. Echo Fox has the wards in which you could theoretically set up plays. Last game, Phoenix 1 had all that pressure, and I was saying that's why Keith hasn't been able to set up the Enchanted Crystal Arrow plays, but there's no excuses this game. They have the deep vision and the small gold lead because their mid laner, Froggen, is up almost 40 CS against Ryu. Not to mention they have a Shen who can ult down, who's not being pressured heavily in lane by the Zig. If Echo Fox doesn't make this pressure work, then they may have to rethink picking such early game strategies because they need to make the plays, especially when they have the vision control to do so.
Yeah, when you see a Shen, a lot of times, you know, Stand United, people look at it, they think of it as a defensive tool, but some of the best uses of Stand United, some of the biggest game-changing uses of Stand United are when you can use it to offensively make a play, like we saw earlier where Acadian goes in, starts off the 1v2, brings in Looper, and they grab the kill onto a Nori. Going for those opportunities, recognizing those, and pulling the trigger with confidence can be the difference between an okay Shen and a damn, that was a really cool Shen.
Yeah, here comes the Acadian, though.
Arrow getting himself caught out, sidesteps the Sonic Wave. The taunt wears off in time to allow him to get away from that skill shot, but Ryu's going to be locked down. There comes the stun. More burst going to be showing up. The exhaust onto Froggen to prevent the kill. Ryu keeps himself alive, dashing away from those crabs and avoiding the damage from the Malefic Visions.
Yeah.
Lethal.
And that's also why you see Doran's Ring, Abyssal Scepter as the build for Ryu. I need to double check to see that Gate pulled off that combo right, but for now, a miraculous survival by Ryu.
Echo Fox taking the opportunity to try to put some damage now on the mid lane tier 1, but because Phoenix 1 has rotated the bottom lane here, they're not going to get too many chances, to pour some damage into that one, as the Cloud Drake will be live here in about 10 seconds. The second time the Drake will be up this game. Phoenix 1 did secure the first one for themselves, but Echo Fox is the team that has control over the area for now. You can see a couple of wards in the river. Neither team with a huge ton of vision there. You still got to give the edge to Fox.
Yeah, and the map play is becoming really intriguing this game as well, because Phoenix 1 have now had Arrow in the bottom lane, threw him top, and now he's just sitting mid with stunts. So with this much movement, you expect something to start break because you're kind of changing the comfort level of the game. Not to mention with Drake up right now, we're going to see some action.
Whoa, Froggen grabbing the burst onto Arrow. He might be low mana, but he's not out. Stand United going to be used, keeping him safe. Acadian now looking to make yet another play. Stunt going to be taken down next. Can't use the ultimate to save himself in time. Gate chases away Zig and Nori, and that's a 2 for 0 for Fox.
Wow. Froggen just deletes Arrow. He had stacked so many Dark Spheres on the ground. The total burst damage really wasn't being respected by Arrow. He dies with heal up because he wasn't expecting the orbs to just continued to fly through. I don't think he was counting them properly. Big swing for Echo Fox.
Looper sitting in this topside brush, seeing Ryu push up. And Nori's hanging around here too, but Nori moves in towards the enemy blue buff while Ryu just has to kind of walk himself away from this one. Looper without really any kill potential on the Shen in the 1v1 situation versus the Ahri, but let's take a look at exactly Arrow's mistake here.
Full health, and the stun didn't land, so he thinks he's 100% fine. But look, start counting the orbs that are on the ground. 1, 2. He casts one right beforehand, and that actually loops in. So it's a 6-orb ultimate as well as landing the Q, and that's enough for that level 13 Froggen.
So much there. Look at the grin on his face. He knows exactly what just happened with that burst damage. As Looper and Keith finding some solid pain onto a Nori. He's going to be forced back here. Has to escape from Gate, who's coming up from around the corner. And Nori gets himself out before Gate's able to land that ulti onto him, but Keith now going to be the one putting the damage into the top lane tier 1. Echo Fox wants to grab this, continue to build that gold lead. Their opponents still have no turrets so far. Phoenix 1 without a single turret taken in 21 minutes. Echo Fox with only 1. Very, very close to grabbing number 2 here. Phoenix 1 very close to their first.
Yeah, and Phoenix 1 has left a fair bit of standing gold on the map. They have chipped away at both the top and the bottom lane turrets, and it's kind of imperative that they get those turrets now before later, because if they actually do lose the outers in all these lanes and lose the map control, they would never be able to go back to pick up that gold. Ryu gets in the bottom side, which is a good start.
Arrow and Stunt continuing to push up in the mid lane. Froggen sitting on top of a ward. Was trying to maybe set up a cheeky way to grab another insta-kill onto Arrow, but Arrow's going to be respecting that now. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I should really stop walking within range of Syndra.
Yeah, I mean, he's still building up his Trinity Force. We're expecting Quicksilver Sash at some point, not to mention because of the Cinder Burst, but also because of the Malzahar, but he's just not there yet, and here comes Ryu.
Oh,
wow.
Ryu's now the one looking to make the play. The stuns into the damage, into the moves, into more damage, and Froggen keeps himself alive. Now can they turn this one back around? Looper and Acadian are here. They're just providing the escape route for their mid laner. Phoenix 1 was not able to find the kill. And Echo Fox somehow keeps Froggen going.
Oh my goodness, 550 damage shield from the Shen, not to mention the Spirit's Refuge afterwards is just enough to keep Froggen alive at the end of that. It looked like he was dead for sure.
Oh, I thought he was dead to
did
rights.
Everything to get in on that fight, but yeah, when that kill doesn't go through, that really hurts Phoenix 1's ability to make map plays because they invested everything.
That knocks the wind out of your sails. It really does. The exhaust, the flash.
I mean, gorgeous play by Ryu to get through the minions in order to land the charm. And then they have the Taric ult give them invulnerability, so you're thinking there's no way they don't kill him, they're just going to stay in. Ryu kind of shorts that last Q as Froggen's running away, and they get nothing for that play.
Stand United plus Spirit's Refuge is one hell of a defensive steroid to keep that mid laner alive. As the mid lane tier 1 finally falls, Echo Fox takes out the last piece of that outer ring. Stun gonna be coming through onto a Nori. The multiple ultimates coming in. Malzahar and Syndra making quick work of that bug. As the push is now gonna be stopped thanks to no minions, but Echo Fox starting to find momentum and success as this game goes on.
Yeah, another nice flash ultimate there by Gate. This time actually picking up the kill because they had more backup damage afterwards. Gonna have to respect Ryu though.
He's coming in. Echo Fox trying to make the catch onto Stunt. The damage comes through. The Sonic Wave not going to be finding the mark. Acadian still looking to chase this one down. Might just get himself punished. Zig into the back line. Almost able to grab the kill. There you go. First one's on the Gate. The disengage from Echo Fox comes through. Ultimately, they leave, just losing their support.
Yeah, well, Looper's teleport and Stand United was down, so even though the map was 5 alive versus 4, the fight was actually a 4v4. So again, smart of Phoenix 1 to just jump right into that one and pick up a kill.
And Stunt barely got away from that one, but barely is all you need sometimes. Not giving away the gold, the experience to his opponents, instead baiting Acadian in and ultimately allowing the Nautilus to get that positioning to take down Gate. Keith now farming up bottom side. 1-0, 1, and 2 compared to 1-1 and 1. The 80 carry score is much closer in this second game than they were in the first game, where at this point I believe Arrow was 4-1 and 3.
Yeah. The thing, though, in this match is still that Arrow has hit a massive power spike. The Trinity Force completed as well as the Muramana transform, plus the cooldown boots, puts him in everything he wants to do. 30% cooldown reduction, all of the damage, and probably one of the reasons Phoenix 1 wanted to go aggressive in that last fight.
Ryu sends a wave into the top lane tier 1, knowing that it's going to be enough to take that one down, so picks up the second turret of the game for his team. And Jet, this game is still 1,500 gold apart.
Yeah.
At this time in last game, a Baron had been taken, turrets had been broken, an inhibitor was down, and it was looking like the end of times.
Yeah.
And this game, we have no idea.
But keep in mind, 23 minutes into that first game, it was also really close.
That's true. This could just be a game on a 3-minute delay from the first one.
Yeah.
We might see all sorts of insanity any moment.
Yeah, we just need to make sure we're tracking the map plays and the objectives. The Infernal Drake is coming up in 25 seconds. That's why they're congregating here. The ultimate being burned by Ryu hurts Phoenix 1 in this upcoming fight. But with the QSS being completed on Arrow and that massive power spike, Phoenix 1 may still want to fight.
They may still look for it. Keith won't have the arrow either. They did try to expend that, looking for the pick onto Ryu. But Infernal Drake is always something that you're willing to fight for. Echo Fox does not want to just walk away from this one. Stunt going to be hit by the Sonic Wave. Acadian does not have Flash. So if he goes in, he's going to have to reposition through wards.
Main, we need to track where Froggen casts his ultimate. Will he be exhausted while he does it because Ryu has exhaust? And how do they engage? They go on Stunt. Beautiful.
TV coming in from the backline. Stunt going to be bursted down first. Can't even use the ulti. Now Echo Fox having to back themselves away. Looper going to be caught out by Zig, but that's the tank. It doesn't really matter too much. Gate going to be chased down next. And Nori hopping right back into the fight. Looper buying all the time into the backline, but Arrow and Ryu are going to be bursting him down. The damage comes in. It's a 2 for 2 so far. Echo Fox retreating through the enemy jungle.
Yeah, such a close fight. The fact that they took down Stunt first can be smart against the Taric because it prevents him from pulling up that Cosmic Radiance. But when you burn all your CC on the Taric, what does that mean for Ezreal and Ahri? Because Arrow was free hitting for the majority of that fight with the Trinity Force Muramana power spike, and it ends up splitting it 2 for 2.
Looper bought a lot of time keeping the Ahri and the Ezreal occupied, but ultimately he paid for it with his life. And the Infernal Drake still lives. Neither team in good enough condition to actually go for the take there afterwards. Arrow now going to be the one looking to maybe solo this one down, but there is a ward that is not disabled.
Yeah, so they see him, and if they did any type of cheeky play over the wall, they'd be able to stop him, but they'd have to get pretty fast. Could the Arrow take it? No.
It does! Oh my goodness, he stole it with the Malzahar portal!
Oh, that hurts for Phoenix 1 because Arrow was looking to secure it with the True Shot Barrage, but it looked like he... I want to see that again. Either the True Shot Barrage took it to about 1 health before the Call of the Void's going to throw down. To be fair, Call of the Void does 300 damage roughly for Gate at this stage in the game.
Let's
built up a lost chapter. But, oh my goodness. Because I don't think he couldn't have gotten the Malefic Visions over the wall.
All right, let's
have the eyes on the Ash Arrow and the Ezreal ultimate. Because he's trying to burst the end of it, but...
Okay. Kaboom.
490...
You actually don't even see the health. They hit it the same split second.
Yeah, so the only thing that could have happened there, because Call of the Void is not doing 490 damage, is the Ezreal ultimate took it below that threshold, and then Call of the Void did
Call of the Void secured
but it was in the same frame.
Yeah, because we never got to see the health bar update.
Oh my goodness.
That, you couldn't have a closer one than that. Echo Fox are happy about the outcome there as Ryu's going to be bursted over the wall. The exhaust used to keep himself alive. Now Froggen expending both summoner spells to not get the kill. Ryu only using 1 there. So as long as Echo Fox doesn't find anything big off the momentum of Ryu having a back right now, it's still going to be a gain for Phoenix 1.
Yeah, and still a relatively close game. The Infernal Drake is honestly a couple thousand gold swing as far as relative power in these games. That 8% attack damage and ability power, and a 16% net swing. I mean, pretty big move right there, but a lot of it will still come down to the map play in a game this close, so pivotal around initiation. And as we saw in that last team fight, team fighting is difficult for Echo Fox because they're damned if they do go for Taric, because that means Ezreal and Ahri are free, and they're damned if they don't go for Taric, because that means Ezreal and Ahri may become invulnerable for 2.5 seconds. So it's why Taric can be so effective in team fights if you make it through the laning phase.
It can be so difficult to have to play around him. You pretty much have to isolate him from his allies, kill the allies, and then deal with him later. This Echo Fox hanging around here in the mid lane, moving towards the Baron area, 29 minutes into the game. This is definitely going to be a big objective up for contention as both teams go back and forth looking to establish and clear out that vision. If either one of them gets the opportunity, they could burn it down pretty fast.
Yeah, Mountain Drake.
Oh! not able to find that flash stun he was looking for. The angle just wasn't there.
Yeah, that's tough. Stunt could have pulled that off a little bit better. Started the stun on a different angle before that flash and caught Keith, but when that misses, it hurts because that's one of the main ways Phoenix 1 would initiate.
And with that flash down, Fox can breathe just a little bit easier when they start these fights off, knowing that the Tarek has slightly reduced mobility capability to keep his allies protected or to lock down somebody with that stun. Ryu also still with a little bit of time left to go on the exhaust before that's back up. It's going to be a big summoner spell for the fights. Froggen's Ignite will be a similar story. 4-0-1 on Acadian's Lee Sin. So far having a really great game for himself. 5 out of 6 kill participation. Guardian Angel also now completed. Means he's not going to be afraid at all to jump into these fights and go for what would otherwise be a suicidal insect play setup.
Exactly, and on the other side, Inori hasn't looked great in his first game back after the break, being subbed after game 1.
Ooh!
Arrow has looked good.
Yes.
The main worry for him is, does he have enough defensive stats for a Froggen just flashes on him with 600 AP and ults? Because that's how they're going to take Arrow out of this game. No Locket completed by Stunt yet to help with that burst. No Hex Drink or anything for Arrow because he does have the QSS and is building towards a Scimitar, but wants to make sure he's in that carry mindset. So for everything that's happening in this game, I think a lot of it's actually just going to come down to, will Arrow be able to avoid getting ulted by Froggen?
That can be pretty hard sometimes, considering it's point and click and all she has to do is have the balls sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
It's a tall order.
He's in that carry mindset, right? And he has been the majority of the damage in a lot of these Phoenix 1 fights. So it's also just kind of how he deals with it, right? Is he chunked it all when he's in range? And how is that going to affect the way he plays these team fights?
Echo Fox has had this small advantage for so long now. 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Here comes the TP from Zig.
Zig wants to make the TP flank onto these guys. Remember, Keith does not have flash. He does not have heal. Zig's able to find the angle. Can they get him? Keith getting himself bursted down, and he is already out of there, ladies and gentlemen. Phoenix 1 have found themselves 2, and Looper is likely going to be number 3. They jump on him. 5 versus 1 is not a fair fight. And Phoenix 1 takes 3, looking for Baron.
Oh, they are picking on that guy. He walked right into the Nautilus. They burst him clean through the Shen ultimate. And the Syndra Ezreal interaction doesn't even become a factor because the fight was over before that could happen. Now they want to try and maybe miracle steal this Baron because Acadian is up.
Acadian has to be a hero, but Froggen is chain CC'd and just taken solo. Almost getting himself away again. The shutdown credit goes over to Zig. Echo Fox buying as much time as they can. They grab the kill onto Stunt, so that is just a 1-for-1. Now Keith and Gator back alive. Phoenix 1 returns to the Baron pit.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a little bit risky by Phoenix 1 because they've already won the fight, but Acadian's still there.
Arrow has
still
almost
has his Guardian Angel. He's got a bunch of mana. Keith and Gator on the way. This could get messy.
Yeah, Arrow has almost no mana left. And Nori is also very low in terms of mana. Ryu is very low in terms of mana. Acadian gonna be ulted by the Nautilus, still trying to secure this Baron if they can. He does the smite missed! But Nori still secures Baron Nashor. The Guardian Angel gonna be procced. Zig just walking straight to his death. Farewell, brave soldier. We will forget you not. He's just buying as much time as he can.
Oh my goodness, that could have been so bad for Phoenix 1, but it works out because they get the Baron. As Zig ulted Acadian up to prevent him from being able to fly into steal, Inori smites early. Baron at 1100 health, smite deals 900, and it just sat at that 200 health for what felt like forever. But Phoenix 1 still secured the Baron. It does cost Zig his life. Overall, it's worth it, and Phoenix 1 now has the lead.
That felt long for me as a spectator. I felt like I was just sitting there watching that thing for eternity. I can't imagine what it felt like playing the game. As Cloud Drake is now the target for Phoenix 1. This will be their second Elemental Drake, the 4th one this game, and the last one that will be an Elder that's spawning at about 40 minutes, 20 seconds. That's when Elder's gonna come online for the first time. Both teams having 2 Elemental Drakes.
Yeah, watching this, Inori, Ryu, and Zig are getting low, so you can see that Inori wants to smite, but 187, 117. Then he gets it with a spell or an auto attack afterwards.
If Gate would have got that with Call of the Void after getting the Drake earlier with Call of the Void, I would have been done, man.
He was super close to being able to do it as well. That's
the problem, is he was so close to being able to do it. When Inori was in the pit, I don't know if maybe Inori got a little bit nervous thinking that Acadian was going to be coming over the wall or what, but very, very dangerous to be quick on the smite trigger finger like that. Too quick, I should say. You want to be quick.
Yeah. I mean,
Phoenix 1 now has Baron for themselves. Now pushing up onto the tier 2. Acadian going to be caught out. Pretty tanky, though. You don't want to be going for him as the Cosmic Radiance comes down. Looper into the middle of the fight. Going to be finding the taunt onto multiple people. Spirit's Refuge not protecting anyone. A very nice Syndra stun, but Acadian still will fall. Zig marching straight forward into enemy territory. Marching straight forward into death. Froggen grabbing the kill in return, and it's 1-for-1.
kind of a weird fight because Ryu wasn't even there. The Terror Call did buy so much time for them, and as you mentioned, the great stun came through from Froggen. A little surprised that Zig stayed so aggressive when they had kind of won the initial engage and Ryu could have continued to slip push down the bottom side, but now they're going to try and continue.
Stun taking a whole lot of pain from that Syndra. Thing is, like, he looks kind of tanky because he's got so much health, but there's not really a lot of resistances in there. So when a Rabadon's Death Cap, Abyssal Scepter, Morellonomicon Syndra hits him, it hurts him really, really bad.
Yeah, it really does. Not able to capitalize on too many of the defenses, but now getting a little bit healthier with the Kindle Gem. One day, he'll be fully tanky.
One day. But support life is a bit of a hard life. The low economy makes piling those items up be less than easy.
Yeah, he's at 2,850 health with 115 magic resist. Tarek loves to stack the armor, not so much the magic resist, but he is still in a relatively effective place. As long as Froggen can't one-shot someone, and it's unlikely now that he's gone Guardian Angel before Void Staff, since everyone has picked up a small amount of magic resistance. Oh, Arrow goes really aggressive.
Yeah, Arrow
It's gonna be okay for Phoenix 1.
jumped in there, popped the flash to get himself out. He doesn't die, but that was really dangerous. Froggen now flashing forward, looking to find the execution of his own. Stun gonna be popping the Cosmic Radiance. This fight is gonna be all over the place. The TP coming in. Echo Fox deciding to go right back in. Acadian, though, can't find the angle, and now he's going to be finding his own demise. Zig running down the back line. Keith goes. There goes Gate. There goes Froggen and Looper, the last man standing, but who even cares? Phoenix 1 now have the opportunity to push mid.
Yeah, and I don't know where Froggen thought he was in terms of power, because that ultimate wasn't even close to killing Arrow. Flashes forward into an exhaust and a QSS guy before he has Void Staff, so Phoenix 1 end up winning that fight easily, not to mention on the backside, Acadian fails to kick Arrow in. It's going to be a huge win for Phoenix 1 here.
Absolutely massive. Froggen's mistake in flashing forward there is going to be just so phenomenally costly for this team. And we've talked about Froggen before, how he's one of the guys that carries Echo Fox when they win, but he can still get greedy. And you saw right there why greed is a deadly sin.
Yeah. 6,000 gold now. The inhibitor opened up. Still chasing after Looper Shen. Uh-oh, though. See a stun.
Stun? I don't know about hanging around that long. All right, he's crab food.
Took a bad path and recall location out.
Looper?
His GA's up.
He ran away for so long, kept himself alive, and now he's still gonna do it. Nope. Guardian Angel at least popped. They got him at the end.
You could see Arrow's player Cam exasperated after they finally took that Looper. But just looking at the way these team fights are playing out, it's starting to favor Phoenix 1 more and more. Echo Fox would need to be able to get the picks onto someone. There are still only 2 QSSs onto Phoenix 1, but watch this. Arrow just an incredibly aggressive move. He went for a burst execution combo on a Keith fast to flash out due to the Ash Arrow, and then Froggen's like, all right, this dude doesn't have flash. Let's go. He's got only 1 extra orb on the ground, so it's a 4-ball ultimate. Just nothing like any of the earlier plays. It's never going to kill Arrow, even if he doesn't have the magic resist.
Froggen's having flashbacks.
Acadian kicks backwards because Arrow, I couldn't catch if he shifted out while that was happening, but always tough to insect in Ezreal.
Yeah.
Did not work out right there, and Phoenix 1 totally clean up.
Froggen wanted to make the same play he got onto Arrow earlier. The flashback to the Arrow jumping forward and then just getting deleted by the ulti combo, but 2 very different conditions, like you mentioned, between then and now. Arrow and Stunt, feeling comfortable. 4-1 and 10 on the Ezreal. Almost full build, just has to build that QSS into a Mercurial Scimitar. Keith, 1, 3, and 6 on the Ashe. Just been destroyed a couple of times in these fights by positioning that didn't allow him to escape from Zig jumping in on top of him, and that Nautilus is such a huge problem for Echo Fox.
Yeah, Zig had really the perfect TP flank in the fight that broke this game open. Now it's potentially about just finding that again. Elder Drake and Baron are up concurrently, so if Phoenix 1 can get some deep wards, it sets the conditions in which Zig can get another one of those teleport flanks. Keith will have to move forward to contest those buffs since Echo Fox doesn't want to just concede the game in that sense, and that's when you'd see the exposure of Keith for a flank.
Syndra's Guardian Angel also down. Same can be said for Shen's. The Lee Sin and Nautilus GAs, those are up and running though. Zig eating some damage, but not really concerned about it. Looking to turn things right back around. Keith having to flash away. Stand United to keep him safe, but now Gate's gonna be bursted. Looper in some trouble, trying to retreat. Keith still going to be jumped on. Nothing can keep him safe. A rampage for Arrow. Acadian, his Guardian Angel's getting itself popped. Looper trying to escape. A double kill for Arrow. Froggen going down too. Acadian having to run away, but there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. Phoenix 1 are marching into the base, and with 4 still dead, this is GG.
Yeah, they just run through Echo Fox at this stage in the game. They pop the Taric ultimate. Brute force. I mean, Zig just ulted Keith, and that's enough of a fight starters. They then ran through the rest of the team. Phoenix 1 scaled up and knew how to finish.
Phoenix 1 with the decisive 2-0 victory over Echo Fox. Gonna be feeling that much stronger about where they stand in the standings now. 3rd place, just a little bit behind TSM and Cloud9, while Echo Fox are back into that wild melee, trying to make their way into playoffs.
Yeah, not the series Echo Fox wanted. Nori doesn't seem super happy with his play, but he should be happy with the victory and the position Phoenix 1 now puts themselves in. That was another solid team performance right there. Ryu and Arrow really stepping up, not to mention Zig had a great series, especially the week after making a big roster change. Adrian going to Team Liquid, picking up Stunt from Team Dignitas, and then to have the Friday and Saturday games as well, so even less time to prepare compared to other teams, and coming out with such a solid 4-win, 0-loss game score, 2-0 week is just very impressive.
It really is. And even though Inori didn't have what you would expect in terms of a scoreline from a Kha'Zix, there wasn't some like 8-1 and 2 or anything like that. 2-3 and 12 still shows he was participating in a lot of the efforts being made by Phoenix 1. He didn't go off and hard carry the game, but he was still an important part of that victory.
Exactly. Kha'Zix can still be a nice utility carry when he falls behind. One of the reasons we see so much of him. For Echo Fox, the struggles kind of continue a little bit right there. Acadian can't get his early game footing. Did have a better game on Lee Sin, but some unfortunate team fights down the stretch, even though they all tried to build up Guardian Angels. Phoenix 1 was just such a behemoth in team fights compositionally.
Yeah, Acadian's Lee Sin was 4-0 and 1 there for a while, and then the deaths just started pouring in, and he ended up not finishing as strong as he started.
Yeah.
And Echo Fox as a whole is kind of telling that same story going through the spring split right now, because they were able to, well, Acadian more so than just the entire team, but the entire team with him, because he is so much of the team. When he's able to go off and, like we mentioned, get Froggen and get Looper going, they can do a lot. But when Acadian isn't able to find success, that hurts the success of the solo lanes, and that hurts the success of the team.
Yeah, and we also have to just think about the way the team compositions interacted in this game. By no means was Echo Fox's draft bad, because they had an early game focus and had a lot of ability to kind of snowball the bottom lane with a Shen and a pushing mid lane. They just didn't do it. And then you looked at the Phoenix 1 team, where they had such impeccable team fight scaling that we really just got to see the results of late in the game. Like, that's the way it's going to play out. And Phoenix 1 has been able to kind of get this team fighting mentality with Meteos and now with Inori, and just relying on Arrow and Ryu to just farm up and be beasts, which is what they've been for the past few weeks. It's working very well for Phoenix 1.
And Phoenix 1 is looking right now like a team that could be a serious contender once we reach playoffs, because they have been, and I hate to say it because it sounds almost too punny, but they're on a hot streak. This is a team that has been doing really, really well for themselves, and they keep doing really, really well for themselves.
Yeah, you look at the organization coming into the LCS, having such a poor first split, barely winning their matches, and then to now be solely in 3rd place.
And comfortably.
FlyQuest did not have a good week this week. Phoenix 1 has had a spectacular week, so comfortably in 3rd place. Going to be tricky for them as they have now 4 matches remaining on their schedule if they wanted to try and climb up to a top 2. But even a third place means you get to play against a 6 seed, you get the advantage in that matchup, and they got to be looking pretty comfortable and still looking to improve as they move towards playoffs.
Well, for a first-hand account of exactly what's going on, we're going to go ahead and check in with Pastry Time, who's ready for an interview with P1's jungler.
Thank you very much. I'm here with P1's other jungler, Inori. Great to have you back here in the NALCS. First game kind of after coming back. How are you feeling after that one?
Not too happy. I think I played pretty poorly, but we still won, so I'm happy about that.
It's been a great weekend for the team overall. Of course, going 4-0 means you guys are in a great position moving into the back end of the season. But how's it been like as far as coming back into the team, maybe shaking some of the rust off, getting those games in?
It was pretty hard. Like, Meteos has been playing really well, and, like, I'm happy the team's doing well, but I'm just kind of upset, like, I don't get the chance to play as much. But I understand the situation. Like, he's a really good jungler, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can from him, and hopefully I can improve.
And I was actually going to ask you, you guys have actually very different styles from the jungle. It feels like, you know, if Meteos is maybe more a permanent part of this roster, even just as a sub, are you guys learning from each other's styles? Because he's got, you know, his individual picks like the Zach is more of a control player, whereas you love your aggressive carries. Are you guys kind of learning off each other and kind of how the jungle works?
I'm not too sure about him, but I'm learning a lot from his communication. I think he has a lot of experience, and his communication is really good. So I respect him a lot for that, and I think I can learn a lot more from him too.
All right, so look ahead now. Phoenix One in a prime position, sole possession of third after this weekend, but of course, you can push for a few more weeks. First of all, are we going to be seeing more of you throughout the week? So you planning on kind of getting back in now that you're back into it? And how well do you think Phoenix One will do to close out the regular season?
That's up to the management and coaching staff. I would love to play, but I still am kind of disappointed how I played today. I want to improve a lot more before I play on stage next, so I would like the opportunity to play more, and I think P1 will do really well. I mean, I'm watching the other teams play, and I think P1's on like an uprise. So, yeah, I think they'll do pretty well.
All right, final question for you. I know you're originally from Canada. Spring Finals will be in Vancouver this year. Are you going to be there?
I mean, I hope so. Like, yeah. I would love to play, though. Yeah. That would be really nice to play in front of, like, your hometown crowd. So I'm hoping I get the chance, but obviously I don't want to play if I'm not performing to my level. So I hope I improve a lot before that.
Well, best of luck. Great series today. It seems like the team and you are on an upward trend. We are going to send it back to the analyst test, though, to wrap up the day.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. Good to see Inori back in the league, and I'm sure, as he mentioned, happy to come away with the victory, but not necessarily happy with his individual play. You know, some to a degree forgivable in terms of some, you know, some rust buildup. It may be expected when being away from the NALCS for a bit of time. But overall, the 2-0 victory for Phoenix One here against Echo Fox, as well as the 2-0 week, which puts them solidly in third place here.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty surprising the way it happened too. You know, maybe they beat FlyQuest, and then there's like a game record thing because, you know, we know P1 has a really nice game record, but then, you know, FlyQuest loses again today, and now they're just completely in control of third place. Not what I was expecting heading into today.
Right, and the way they do it is Meteos in game 1 playing on that Zac. We flip to game 2. Champion select looks very different for Phoenix One all of a sudden. So it's actually kind of nice to see that the team has the ability to adapt around the jungler that they decide to put in, being on a more aggressive Kha'Zix this time around.
It's really interesting, actually, because with Meteos, it's like, okay, he started really poorly. Like, the first game he got out of jungle was really hard, and then he's improved steadily, like, throughout the weeks. And then Inori comes in, he's kind of rocky. The first game, I think he killed himself like 1 or 2 different times. And so it's a real fight for the position.
And just the way like it influences their entire champ select. Whereas you see here they have to take the Kha'Zix early because of the Rengar and Graves bans.
Right.
And then if this was Meteos, you know, you're probably taking a tank jungler a little later on, and once they take the Shen, you maybe use the last pick Rumble counter pick. It's so hard to do that when you have the Kha'Zix already taken. And it really does influence their entire team comp, where you might see Zig on more tanks when paired up with Inori versus what Meteos unlocks Zig to do with some of his more pocket picks.
Which is just credit to Zig then for being able to play across the tank pool and the carry pool. And just today we had Kled and then Nautilus played. You know, then we look elsewhere on the map, and of course Arrow is a solid, consistent performer in the bot lane, but Stunt picking up somewhat of a frontliner here in the Taric, as opposed to one of the squishier, you know, caster supports that we've seen a lot more of right now in the current meta. So it really is an entire team effort here in order to craft around both junglers depending on which one is in the game.
And of course the fact that, you know, Adrian subbed out, I don't think we would have seen Taric in this game if we were still having Adrian on this team. So it's very interesting to see P1 not only having to adapt to the players that are playing for them right now, but the fact that they're able to win while doing so.
Right.
Yeah, and like I love seeing Tarek because Tarek used to always be like, oh, I'd see C9 play, and they played it very well, where they used Tarek like stuff initiation from other teams, and this is kind of what we saw this game. Like in multiple situations, denied like a whole Syndra ult, or just a lot of damage that was produced off a potential pick from the other team.
Right. That said, this game was a lot closer for a much larger portion of the game until Phoenix One was finally able to get a solid advantage around the 32-minute mark. But it all stemmed from Arrow, an aggressive play as the AD carry, popping both summoners out of Keith here, will then net a one-team fight off of a Team P flank. Here we are.
Yeah, just a couple minutes later, or barely even, like a minute or two later, Zig gets a nice TP flank, and he hits Acadian, doesn't matter, turn around, focus back onto Keith. He has no summoners, he goes down right away. There's that Tarek ult like Scara was mentioning, and it just makes it so hard for the team to punish that kind of engage where it wasn't the cleanest, but they were able to open up on the Keith.
Yep, I mean,
I was going to say, from here, though, Scara, I know you had some criticism around, what they did to close the game. Once again, with, around the Baron, doing some weird chasing around the map. Phoenix One still looks to be a little bit lost sometimes in the late game when it comes to pushing down those inner turrets and inhib turrets.
I mean, you saw them try a lot. Like, you saw Stun, I think, failed 3 or 4 separate flash E's or E flashes this game. And I have to give him credit. Like, after failing the first one, like, you may be like, okay, well, like, it's just not going to work. But he kept going for them, even in games where it was if he hit it, he would win the game or get the pick. And so I respect that a lot. And even though it didn't convert this time, I'm hoping to see more consistent play throughout.
Very much so. Let's pop over to our final replay here, 37 minutes into the game. 4-0 for Phoenix One. This really put, the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, once again, kind of off the back of Arrow's aggressive play.
We just missed it, but he eat in and flashed out there. But
I just can't believe Froggy went for this.
That was way too aggressive with his support right next to him there. Then you get to see the
Arrow plays this great here against Lee Sin. So watch that.
Yeah, nice shift to avoid getting Insect into his team. Froggen now been chunked out super low over the course of this extended fighting. Easy to get onto Keith as well, and then Inori starts getting those resets and going all crazy on everybody.
And if this rolls out, of course, from there, it still took a little bit of time to end the game as they had to go push down the top lane, inhib and whatnot. But whereas Phoenix One is now solidly into that third place position at 9-5, Echo Fox here 5-8. Where while Immortals picks up a victory today, makes that 6th, 7th place discussion all of a sudden a heck of a lot more interesting. They were so close at the beginning of the day and now quite far apart.
Yeah, and I think if you just want to talk about like the entire day, it's absolutely insane to see Dignitas picking up a win as well. And now there's a ton of pressure. Envy looked good in their series, pushing TSM to 3 games. So overall, the bottom tier teams really showed up today and challenged basically everyone they played.
Yeah, we thought it'd be a super one-sided day, and honestly, like I wasn't too psyched for the schedule today. Like I thought yesterday I had an interesting schedule, tomorrow has an interesting schedule, and today was going to be like the weakest of the 3. It just turns out that today had like blowout games.
Yeah, very exciting day today. Arrow's going to pick up player of the game. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say about this guy. We've said so much. I don't know what else there is to say, but he's a monster. He's a monster.
Yeah, I mean, like we were joking about this. Like as Arrow is like in the game longer, you have a higher chance of winning. Just give him time. He will make a play. Like, at 30 minutes, it's been a close, hard-fought game. Eventually, Arrow finds the opening, blows key summoners, and it's like, oh, hey, suddenly their immobile AD carry doesn't have summoners. This makes a TP flank for Zig 10 times easier. So I think, just give Arrow a little bit of time, a little bit of room to work, and he'll find you something.
And that's where maybe having Stunt next to him as a support, willing to make some of the more aggressive plays that maybe Adrian wasn't going to make, or at least play the champions that allow them to be a little bit more aggressive, might aid Arrow in becoming an even stronger carry for the squad.
The only critique you can have on Arrow is that his lane phase wasn't very good. But I often attribute it to the fact that like Adrian just isn't a very aggressive player. However, when you look how Stunt's playing lane, this guy is going ham. This guy has different champion picks, and he's a very aggressive player. And I think that opens up a different avenue where Arrow can just like hard win the lane and then carry a lot earlier than you'd expect.
Right, I think that's actually a great point to mention. They actually dove bot lane this time, 2v1, really early on. They just walked up to the Ashe, who had the roaming support. So I think that's the kind of stuff that we had kind of maybe said, Arrow doesn't quite dominate lane, but now that he's paired up with Stun, it seems like they do want to try and take over the game earlier.
Right, give him more time. It's only been a couple days here, these two in the bot lane playing together. They got a couple more weeks until the season closes. With our matches in the books, let's go ahead and pull up the rankings to see how the teams place. Phoenix One's win over Echo Fox not only further distances themselves from 4th place FlyQuest, but grants TSM their spot in the spring 2017 playoffs. Of course, still positioning for 1st and 2nd to be decided. That leaves only 4 more playoff spots up for grabs. We'll be back again tomorrow to see who else can make a play for for them. Our day begins with Counter Logic Gaming versus Cloud9 over on NALCS 1. Then Pobelter and Immortals look to upset Bjergsen and TSM in the Battle Arena. Over on NALCS 2, we start with Echo Fox facing Team Dignitas with Team Liquid against Envy in the Battle Theater later in the day. So back to you, Skara. We talked about how today was the one that was kind of expected to be the dud day in a way, and we're looking at other games. All right, we're about to move into Sunday. What's the big matchup that you're looking at tomorrow?
I'm more interested in kind of like the middle, like the bottom of the playoff spots. So like I look at Echo Fox versus Dignitas. I'm really interested because Echo Fox is kind of falling off. Dignitas is kind of picking up pace, and so that's something where I'm just like, that could be the 6th place decider.
Right, that's a necessary game to win for either of those teams if they really want to make a strong push for 6th place. In that matchup, Mark, who do you think's got the edge? Dignitas off the win today?
I think so, actually. They've been looking a lot better in the recent weeks, and the Echo Fox has been trending downwards. And I think we saw that Acadian had to play great in order for them to actually start winning series, and that's when they kind of had the odd week, even week Echo Fox. And then it feels like he's come back down to earth. He's still playing good, and Froggen's playing good, but it doesn't seem like good is good enough for this roster. They actually need other people to start stepping up. Like Looper has not looked good on frontline and stuff like that. So I think they're in a lot of trouble right now.
Yeah, Scar, we were looking at the mid lane in this past game. I mean, Froggen on the Syndra into Ryuzari, he had total control of that lane. So again, you would think with that kind of pressure and on a dominant champion like Syndra that he might be able to extend that lead and get control of the game. Didn't happen.
Like even though Echo Fox loses games, I'm watching Froggen play. I'm just like, wow, this guy's playing mid lane incredibly well. You see him pressuring the mid lane super well, and you're not seeing much out of it. It may be even CS, he may be ahead by 10, maybe ahead by 20, but in the competitive game without jungle pressure, being ahead by that much consistently every game, it's insane. He had 98 CS at 9:45 this game, which means that he missed 3 CS, assuming he didn't get any Raptors, which I know he did get a little bit, so he missed like maybe 6 CS in the entire lane phase until 10 minutes. I think that's phenomenal, plus he hard pressured the enemy lane to back first.
Right, the fact is though, it's not turning into victory, so they still have to find that winning formula. We'll see if they can do it tomorrow against Dignitas and make a run at playoffs. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today. So for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more North American LCS. Good night.
We're getting ready for our first series as Envy take on TSM. Now, we have seen some growth from Envy, but that doesn't change the fact that they have an uphill battle today against TSM. On Apollo, but he'll issue the ultimatum instead. Does get exhausted, and I think he's going to get killed here. Apollo should lead to it. Lyra managed to get the kill. Bjergsen goes down as well to Ninja. Oh, huge ultimate from Apollo. 4 members of TSM already chunked down. Redemption shouldn't be enough to save them here as Pyropross will be the first casualty. Sven is going to join shortly after from Apollo's auto attack, and Lyra looking to continue down. He does ride the Q all the way in. Poor Turtle's going to get himself taken down by Lyra. Down with the ulti. Hook again landing onto Lyra. TSM surging forward, going to try and take the game. There's TSM slay the Nexus and take down Envy.
Fear of course.
Have it shield too?
Yeah, fear of course. Okay, Grace.
Oriana.
Yeah. 신다고. Nice. Bound tower.
Okay, nice.
Good job. Rengar initiative.
Good.
And now they're re-engaged. Why does CLG even fight this? They give away 2 more kills. Second inhibitor, and that's the kill. It's over. There's no way they can defend this. Team Dignitas gotta make it the 2-0.
Okay, nice. Kill this guy. He has no flash.
Nice.
Holy shit, Eugene. Let's go, dude.
Nice.
That's gonna find it. And actually one shot's high. Looks for a bit more. Moon danger more. Low. Can't click at the kill. Now he will. And Moon's gonna feel doubly bad. A triple kill for the Vanguard. Arrow exhausted over the wall, finds the damage as Froggen's gonna be juggling around. The more damage pouring in. Phoenix 1 have found 4. Looper trying to escape. A double kill for Arrow. Froggen going down 2. Acadian having to run away. But there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. Phoenix 1 are marching into the base. Phoenix 1 with the decisive 2-0 victory over Echo Fox.